For decades, the US and Canada have been more than just neighbors. They've been partners, allies, and friends, sharing not only the world's longest undefended border, but also a deep sense of trust and mutual benefit that has shaped both nations' identities. This border, stretching over 5,500 miles, has long symbolized open cooperation, with millions of people and goods crossing each year, fueling economies and connecting families on both sides. But recent developments in British Columbia have disrupted this familiar dynamic, exposing a more assertive and protective side of Canada that many Americans may not have expected. In March, British Columbia's Premier David Eby made headlines by announcing a new plan, imposing tolls on American commercial trucks traveling through BC highways to reach Alaska. This move wasn't made in isolation, it was a direct response to similar measures taken by the United States, signaling a tit-for-tat escalation. This isn't just a simple road fee, it's a calculated strategic maneuver aimed at a critical supply route that thousands of trucks, and the communities they serve, depend on every year to keep goods flowing to and from Alaska. For years this passage was routine, almost taken for granted. Now it's become a flashpoint in a growing economic standoff, with both sides weighing the costs and consequences of their actions. Canada is now leveraging its unique geography and control over this vital corridor to assert its interests, sending a clear message that the old rules of engagement are changing, and that it's willing to defend its position. The toll is about much more than transportation or money. It's a statement about sovereignty, a form of retaliation, and a reflection of shifting international politics in a world where alliances are being tested. Now, both governments and the citizens who live along this border are being forced to reconsider the true nature of their historic partnership and what it means for the future. The polite giant to the north has stirred, making it clear that even the friendliest borders can become battlegrounds for bigger issues. As the world watches, the next chapter in Canada-US relations is about to unfold. To understand BC's drastic step, we need to revisit the Trump era, when America First policies upended US-Canada trade. In 2018, steep US tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum shattered trust and triggered Canadian retaliation. The renegotiation of NAFTA into USMCA was fraught with tension, leaving lasting scars. Canadians felt bullied, forced into concessions, and the sense of being taken for granted has lingered. Environmental disputes deepened the rift, with BC's climate policies clashing with US rollbacks. The return of Trump and new tariffs this year reignited frustrations, seen as a direct economic assault. For Premier Eby, the tolls are a necessary response after years of mounting pressure. This isn't happening in a vacuum, it's the culmination of a fractured transactional relationship. The Alaska Highway toll stands as a monument to this new adversarial era. At the center of this unfolding drama is Premier David Eby, a leader who has never shied away from bold moves or tough conversations. Eby stands before the public and the press, determined to chart a new course for British Columbia. He frames the proposed tolls not just as a financial measure but as a principled stand for BC's sovereignty and long-term economic future. For Eby, this is about more than dollars and cents. It's about asserting the province's right to make its own decisions in the face of external pressures. Eby argues that if the US chooses to make it harder for Canadian goods to cross the border, then it's only reasonable for the US to contribute to the upkeep of Canadian infrastructure that their trucks rely on. He points out the imbalance in the current system where Canadian resources and roads are used without fair compensation. The tolls, he says, are not just a revenue tool, they're leverage. They serve as a bargaining chip in high-stakes negotiations with the United States, signaling that BC is ready to defend its interests on the international stage. Eby also passionately defends BC's right to set its own ambitious environmental standards. He links the tolls to a broader, ongoing fight for climate action, arguing that the province must have the freedom to pursue clean energy and protect its natural resources. This move, he explains, is designed to insulate the Canadian economy from external shocks and to promote the use of low-carbon fuels, supporting both local industry and the global climate effort. Eby walks a fine line, pushing back against mounting US pressure while also claiming the moral high ground. He knows the risks, but believes the rewards for BC could be transformative. He insists that the ultimate goal is fairness, not escalation or retaliation. Eby wants to show that BC can stand up for itself while still seeking cooperation and mutual respect. By taking this bold and unprecedented step, Eby sends a clear message about Canada's place in the world. a nation willing to defend its values and interests. He's betting that this show of strength and resolve will ultimately lead to a more balanced, respectful relationship with the United States and a brighter future for British Columbia. When governments clash, it's ordinary people and businesses who feel the impact first. American truckers and companies face higher costs and more paperwork, with the Alaska Trucking Association warning these will be passed down the line. For Alaskans who rely on overland shipments for fresh food and essentials, higher transport costs mean higher prices at the supermarket. Remote communities will feel the pinch most. On the Canadian side, there's risk too. U.S. businesses may seek alternatives, and Canadian firms in cross-border supply chains could be caught in the fallout. Premier Eby is betting BC's strategic position gives him leverage. But in any trade dispute, unintended consequences are inevitable. The full economic impact remains uncertain for both nations. The stakes are high and the costs will be widely felt. BC's move has sparked a wave of solidarity across Canada, igniting a sense of unity that transcends provincial borders. What began as a regional dispute has quickly evolved into a defining moment for the entire nation. Canadians from coast to coast are rallying together, turning what could have been a localized conflict into a powerful national stand. The message is clear: when one province is threatened, the rest will not stand idly by. Ontario, led by Premier Doug Ford, imposed a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S., targeting a key vulnerability in cross-border trade. This bold move signals that Canada is willing to leverage its economic strengths to defend its interests. Even business-friendly leaders are taking a hard line, reflecting deep cross-partisan anger. Politicians from all sides are setting aside their differences, united by a shared sense of injustice and a determination to respond forcefully. In the Yukon, Premier Ronj Pillai halted government liquor purchases from U.S. companies, sending a clear message that even smaller provinces and territories are ready to take action. The Yukon government has also limited access to government contracts for American firms, further tightening the screws on cross-border business. There are calls for Yukon to impose its own tolls on goods crossing the border, a move that would directly impact trade with Alaska and demonstrate the territory's resolve. Some are even demanding that Donald Trump Jr. be banned from entering Canada, a symbolic gesture that underscores the depth of public frustration. These actions, though smaller in scale, reveal a groundswell of grassroots anger and a growing willingness among ordinary Canadians to push back in creative ways. Across the country, people are brainstorming new strategies, determined to use every available tool, legal, economic, and political, to defend Canadian interests. The federal government, led by Prime Minister Trudeau, has announced new retaliatory tariffs, working closely with the provinces to present a united front on the world stage. This multi-layered strategy is designed to maximize pressure on the U.S., combining economic measures with diplomatic efforts and strategic alliances. At the same time, Canadian leaders are working to strengthen internal trade, forging new partnerships between provinces and investing in domestic infrastructure. The goal is to reduce reliance on American supply chains, ensuring that Canadian businesses and workers are protected from future disruptions. A new era of economic self-sufficiency is taking shape, as Canada adapts, innovates, and stands together in the face of unprecedented challenges. For Alaska's 730,000 residents, the standoff feels personal. The state's geography makes it vulnerable to disruptions along its land supply routes. While most cargo arrives by sea or air, trucked goods, especially fresh produce and dairy, are critical and time-sensitive. Tolls could mean higher prices, reduced availability, and even empty shelves, especially in remote communities. Alaska's oil and gas industry also depends on overland shipments for vital equipment. Any delays or added costs could disrupt operations and threaten jobs. Governor Mike Dunleavy has called for a resolution, frustrated by being caught in a conflict not of his making. For Alaskans, this is a direct threat to their cost of living and economic stability. Canada's assertive response marks a turning point in its relationship with the U.S. The era of quiet compliance is over. Canada is now willing to defend its interests. The toll booth is a symbol of this new reality, a line in the sand. The U.S. faces a multi-front economic conflict, which may force a return to negotiations. The fate of Alaskan supply chains and cross-border trade hangs in the balance. Another potential flashpoint, Alaska's cruise industry, which relies on stops in BC ports. If BC extends pressure to cruise ships, Alaska's tourism sector could be hit hard. For Canada, This is a test of unity and economic self-defense. For the U.S., it's a reminder that partnership requires respect. The coming months will reveal whether this conflict leads to lasting division or a new, more balanced understanding.